Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You.
We actually took it the distance this time, and we are back.
A day early.
Well, we're a day early, and we're also
And
back
$1
on a hill.
short.
We're back on a hill overlooking the town.
Mm-hmm. We are here on July 5th, and so the day after the 4th of July. Can you stick with us on that?
Numerical
Higher
sequence.
maths. Also the day in which I waded through snow pants, gloves, hats, and
yuck.
wool socks. Why? Why did I do that?
Yuck.
Because they keep getting, like, they were in
Brought
the...
out.
Yes, and Shadrach is my one who's like on opposite thermostat. Like, he's like, Mom, I need to put on my sweater. I'm like, no, you don't. It's hot. Don't put a sweater on. And he's like, no, it keeps me from being hot. And I'm like, no, that makes you hot. And he's like, no, it's cozy. I like it. And then he's like trying to get into, today he saw me doing the snow pants and tried to put some on. I was like, no, do not do this thing.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, I should take a moment to say that we have had 2 weeks of podcasts that we have never Facebooked.
We cast the pod, but we did not distribute it on Facebook.
No, we didn't. I mean,
you have to follow NSAs.
so if you subscribe to the podcast, you may have noticed that it happened. But the people who wait for it to drift to them on Facebook, I'm sorry about that.
Becca's going to do that later tonight.
And
She's
here's the
gonna
problem.
Go home and do it, right?
We can't really go back and post it now without us listening to it to figure out what we talked about. So that we could put up an applicable picture.
I think we could do a mystery. It could be like a mystery purchase at the... I learned that lesson young outside of the Hallmark at the mall.
Did you buy one of the grab bags?
Yeah, because I'm like, what could be in this lumpy grab bag for only $1.50? Like, it was like a brown paper bag. I was like, I can't tell what it is. I should buy it for $1.50.
Of course you should buy it.
And did you know, I don't actually remember the details of what was in there, but it pretty much was probably a small graduation bear for the year before, you know? And I think that there were spare greeting card envelopes. Like a stack of the envelopes that didn't sell. My hard-earned money. I bought myself some random junkus that nobody wanted, and I never went for the mystery grab bags again.
No.
I never after that thought it was a wise choice, so
no.
I didn't have
I might have learned
lessons.
from your experience. I don't remember, but I've never been tempted by the sight unseen
you probably
package.
Right. My kids are still tempted by those, whatever they're called, outside of there. It's like half vending machine, half you'll never catch this plushie toy. You know, the claw arm. They're always like, but what if I'm sure I could be good enough? I'm like, you don't understand. It will not do it. Like, you cannot, you can spend all of your money. One of them did spend several of their quarters trying to get something, and then they're like, that was kind of disappointing. I was like, yeah, that was what we were going to tell you.
Why, the things that take your money outside of stores are always disappointing.
Well, because they are there to just take your money for no return.
There was that thing that they put in the mall. The Moscow Mall, we should add, is hilarious. It's mostly vacant now.
Wait, do you mean the Moscow Mall or the Palouse?
The Palouse
Empire Mall.
What I meant was the mall in Moscow, which is mostly...
It's actually pretty troubled, our mall here.
It's very empty. Anyone out there want to come here and start a big department store for us?
I think that they keep trying to put it in, like, rehab to get something going.
Now it's mostly, I think, like,
Old
dentists'
Navy.
offices.
No, it's the fact that Old Navy is probably the dominant.
Anchor.
And then something I learned from Mason Dixon knitting is Bed Bath & Beyond human endurance.
No, but what was I going to say? Remember when they put up in the mall the wind tunnel machine?
It's was still in there.
Is it? It's like the
hurricane machine. You get in there, and I think the thing costs like $3. And You pay it $3 to basically turn a fan on you in a tank. While onlookers stand around like it looks windy in there. Only $3? Okay, the worst part about this hurricane machine is that I cannot even remember the details of this. It's just like the most embarrassing unit known to man. Because like a big plexiglass curved door.
You're just standing there and kind of the person inside
just in a wind.
Their
That's
cheeks
it.
ripple. And they,
No, it's not even that powerful.
and they look surprised, and that's
I know I'm not even remembering the details correctly, but my husband has this thing where he's like, we give it a try. If somebody bothered to make it, we have to do them the honor of checking if it was fun. Not usually. He does this with all kinds of things. Like he believes that like he's more discerning about the fast food places.
No, I didn't say fast food. I said snack food.
No, but like flip the pretzels, the flip sides, the cracker that's a pretzel on one side and a Ritz on the other. He was like, well, we have to buy this. And I was like, but why? It's like half Ritz, half pretzel. And he was like, but somebody had this idea and they probably worked pretty hard to make it happen. And I think we should just do them the honor of checking if it was a good idea.
Was it?
And actually, surprisingly, flip sides are quite tasty. It's a tasty, weird cracker choice, but it's good. Lots of the time, this decision does not pan out like that, but he did this sometime. I think probably just to shame me into a puddle in the mall. I wept. Obviously, the wind tunnel has a humorous effect on me, but he paid the $3 to step behind the plexiglass shade while I was there and just stand in the wind while I like wept outside because I just can't even. It was actually a really well spent $3 because neither of us had laughed that hard in a long time because nothing funny happened. That's why we were laughing. It wasn't like a fair ride. It's like nothing.
No.
It's a whole lot of nothing happening.
It's just a windy
It's still
telephone
there, though.
booth.
It's still there, though. And then there's the big funnel that you can send all of your change down. This is the mall.
Oh,
and
man.
then there is some hairstyling places.
I think people go and they put their money in there. So I'm just saying, if you want to invest in like gumball machines.
Well, basically anything is better than the hurricane machine. So there's no.
Oh man.
There's like a machine that eats your old cell phones in there to pay you. You know that one. There's one like put your phone in and we'll pay you some money.
Oh my word.
There's a lot of that kind of quality activity at our mall.
There's a lot of acreage covered by that mall, but not a lot of actual.
Not a lot of actual
retail.
joy.
No.
I used to go in there way more often, but there were more. Oh, I'm yawning. There were more stores, but also Starbucks was in there, so you could go in and get a drink and then do a quick like. You don't mind walking through Ross if you're just doing it while you drink your coffee and you're having a moment, but you don't make a special trip to Ross.
No, you don't.
The coffee would bring me there.
Yeah.
And then I might.
Yeah. Well, last time I ran in there to Joann's because they moved Joann's into the mall now.
Which is annoying.
It's very annoying. But anyway, I went in there and I discovered that they have opened up a video arcade in the mall, but it's not like a kind of a. What I picture as a video arcade is like a kind of 80s-y, maybe there's bowling lanes in the back.
Someone's wearing a muscle tee with a mustache.
Yeah, you know, there might be a rackety old pinball machine maybe even somewhere. And this is like a whole lot of lazy boys. It's a dark room with a lot of lazy boys and
it's kind
individual
of like blue lights. And
individual TV screens.
And it's situated near the Super China Buffet. Which I've never gone into.
So when you come visit Moscow, you'll know where you should go.
You'll know
there's
other places than there. There's Goodwill.
There's that.
We only bring up the best features of Moscow. Moscow does have some hip little moments.
Actually, downtown is really fun. It's very alive downtown. But
more
the
interesting.
mall
The mall is not it.
is not alive.
Well, I'm glad we covered that.
Yep. That's
what
good.
have you been doing?
Oh, man. I've been... Well, my sheetrocking project is now moved to the painting project officially today.
Nice. Are you going to paint?
So, well, yes, me and my cheap labor children.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do that. And then we're going to refinish the floors. And I'm looking forward to
that.
Moving.
You're refinishing the floors or you're having them refinished?
We're going to do it. But it's just like all the rooms that are gutted and were being mudded. We had to take like all the furniture from those rooms and stuff it into the other rooms, which means you have the third world rooms that, you know, are without power and everything. Then the rest of the house is still third world.
I don't think you cleared up why they're without power.
Well, I guess, well, that's a long sordid tale, but they don't have lights right now because we had to take the chandeliers down because the ceiling was being mudded. So they don't have lights. So it's kind of like dark and dusty. In those rooms, I'm sure the outlets... Well, no, the outlets don't even work because we turned the power off to those rooms when we took the lights down so as to not electrocute the mudders. So, yes, there's no power in those. But then the rest of the house that should be livable is piled up with all of the things that belong in the other rooms, which basically means housekeeping is an impossibility at this point. So I'm looking forward to spreading it out just a little bit more.
That'd be nice.
Getting a few things put back. That will be very exciting. So anyway, painting begins full steam tomorrow. How about you? Oh, I know what you've been doing.
Oh, listeners, do you hear how a little more sparkly my voice sounds? Do you hear a change?
You should see the way her face is lighting up.
You want to know who among your acquaintances via podcast now is the owner of a floor loom? It would be me.
She wove one dish towel and she knew.
You're lying.
The time has come.
You're lying.
For a full...
I wove 5 dish towels.
Oh, excuse
before.
me.
5.
Well,
that's a lot more than 1.
I only saw 1.
Well, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
If a tree falls in the forest, Rach.
5 dish towels. Yeah, Becca swallowed me up. It doesn't happen if she doesn't know. I did 5 dish towels, and then I found a cheap, old, funky-tastic loom upon the Craigslist. And I have
she drove 100 miles to go collect it.
Yeah, my husband, being the awesome person that he is, thinks that this is a great choice for life. As he said, babe, I think you've had the hots for a floor loom since before you've had the hots for me. And it's totally true. I wanted one before we were even dating.
That is funny.
I felt so it was actually this summer at Mom had a loom when we were little, but I never saw her weave on it. But I do remember messing with them.
Oh, I watched her weave. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember the wall hanging she made.
But I was a baby. See, that's the thing. I have it. That little greeny thing with the Navajo, it went all the way around until it became hip again. I just found it today while I was doing the snow pants in the.
No, it's not that one. There's a different one that I remember. But
well, anyways, I
just like that. Let's just throw this out there. That you drove 100 miles to collect a floor loom.
You know what makes us even funnier? That we are so much those people who show up with 7 children to buy a floor loom.
On the other hand, you're not those people at all in another way.
But that's the thing is I don't think of us as being those people. And yet when it comes out that we are,
but if I was going to picture 7 children showing up to buy a floor loom, I know what outfit you would have been wearing, and I know that there would be a crock pot plugged in the van.
Yeah, but there wasn't, because I'm not that much of a...
I'm just saying that's what I would have pictured.
But the funny part to me is that we stopped for the loom, and then we drove to Spokane to check if the Clay Connection was open for pottery accessories, because we're on it with the mess making things.
Well, and you drove to Spokane to collect your potter's wheel and kiln a different time.
Yeah, we did.
Ben and I, though, we
drove further for a stove.
We drove to San Francisco for my dream stove.
Yeah, so basically, and this isn't even my dream loom, it's just my, this is my prove it further that you mean it loom. But it has 4 harnesses, which I'm stoked about, 6 treadles, which turns out to provide, I don't know, about, I actually think there might not be an upper limit on how many things you could do with that. It's funny, because there's a lot of beautiful things that you could do with a few more heddles, or like 8 or whatever, but if you really just wanted to weave till kingdom come on 4 harnesses, you could keep on doing variety show. But the thing that I did find that is really not my fave about weaving so far is that apparently it's mostly done by old ladies with short hair, and like very short hair, a specific genre of kind of weird
iron gray butch haircuts.
Yeah, like possibly ex-librarians who are stern, and it's not a bountiful life thing anymore. It seems to happen. It seems to be going along. Like, what's weird, this is like out of context for people that I have a lot of kids, that we have a lot going on all the time. Right. It's like the people who do this typically do it because there's nothing going on.
Well, it's because they've probably been doing it since they got into it in Renaissance fairs in the 80s.
I don't know how they got into it. I don't know what's happening. But one thing I have learned is I think either it's so not popular enough that people still just expect to fill out a paper order form and mail it in somewhere, because ordering the supplies for this is like, maybe it's just that Amazon has not yet picked up on this as a resource. But it's weird to have everywhere you go, like these long lists of all this cotton yarn, and then all the colors. And it's basically 0 available from every single one of them, except if you wanted to do like a nice plaid of brown and khaki. you could buy those up. Buy those.
Maybe a little beige.
If you wanted to freshen it up. Freshen it up with some flesh tones. And it was like, what? Like, I did not buy a loom so that I could make a waffle weave out of flesh tones. We can do that without it. I don't need that. And anyways, I did manage to, it turns out it's like more challenging than I thought to just get the things. So I have 4 harnesses and I have a tendon reed, and so I'm like, I would like to use that. And the dish towels that I wove already was on 10-2 cotton, which is the weight of the cotton. So I'm like, that should be pretty simple. 4 harnesses, 10-2 cotton, tendon reed, we should be good. No, we are not good. There is not, like, I'm like, guys, just put these things together for me. I'm not experienced enough. I know you can jury rig things, like the reed, you can kind of get it, but I feel like I would need to know what it's supposed to be like in order to know if it was working, if I was jury rigging it.
So you're going to be doing a little archaeological I
found a pattern. I was stoked that I located a pattern that works with the yarn I already had, so that's good. So tonight I was at Walmart buying the yard sticks to fill in for lease sticks. There's a lot of things that you didn't know.
No, none of the things you're talking about do I know.
But that's the thing,
but I've seen the pictures of the stuff.
But I have a friend. Gorgeous. I have a friend who has a loom that has helped me. I text her periodically with questions because she's experienced, and it's just funny. I'm like, okay, what is a shuttle that I need? And it's like, well, it depends on what you enjoy weaving with. And I'm like, well, story is, I have no idea. I've never done this, so I don't know. I just know that I need a boat shuttle. Yeah. So I ordered one up, and then I'm like, okay, tell me about the bobbins situation, because I was told then you'll need bobbins, and then the pattern calls for the bobbins, and I'm like, I don't even know. You can't go look at them in well, you could if I probably could find a store that I could look at it, but I'd have to travel. Yeah. And after a lot of research, I'm finding that the bobbins it's like, oh, either you can order those or you can just use some little cardboard tubes. I'm like, well, that'll do.
Go for the cardboard tubes.
That'll work. Yeah, so anyways.
That's awesome.
Guys,
so
I'll keep you posted on whether or not I succeeded in anything.
She's got some conundrums ahead with her things.
I always do.
So what were we were going to talk about
It's my continuing education.
A phenomenon that we have seen here and there that is women who are super gifted at something, really talented at hospitality or really efficient homemakers or whatever, and then they somehow manage to create daughters that they haven't passed on the virtue to their daughters. And it's not like their daughters are hideous or something. It's like they may be perfectly nice, pleasant women now, but they did not inherit from their mother's gifts. So it's like a genetic.
When you say inherit, that makes it sound like we're talking about just a natural ability.
Right.
But what you mean is the kind that take training.
I just mean like somehow a mom is gifted at something and yet for whatever reason cannot pass it on. And so like what is it that is...
Well,
my phone's ringing.
Like an example that we would use is like a mom who's really gifted at hospitality, but instead of raising really hospitable daughters, she raises daughters who are critiques or connoisseurs of other people's hospitality. Like they've become they've so much. It's like actually if you were incredible at making all kinds of breads and your kids grew up with a very critical palate for breads, but they didn't make them.
Ability to make
them. They don't make them and they don't think of making them.
Or you have like women who are incredibly involved mothers who are just detail oriented, who get things done, who check stuff off the list. They're just amazingly efficient, but they end up with daughters who are kind of helpless and indecisive and just kind of spin around and aren't sure what to do.
Well, just accustomed to other people handling it.
Yeah, and it sort of strikes me as like basically the phenomenon of like a guy who's sort of a self-made millionaire type guy who got there by hard work and pushing ahead and pulling himself up by his own bootstraps. Right. But then they have this weird like slug of a son who is unable to do anything. So it's like whatever the virtue was that he had, he couldn't hand it off.
He didn't manage.
It was like the baton did not get passed. And so it's just that like how as mothers, how do we avoid doing that with our girls? What are some of the things you think contribute to that phenomenon?
Well, I think it would be this is probably going to be a metaphor run wild. But let's say you have an open flame in a room, like a candle in a small space that it is consuming oxygen. Okay. And let's just say that as a mother, if the vision is, if it matters, if it's not like just a thing, like I think of a lot of crafts and things as being all stand-ins for things that I want my children, not that I care that they grow into being a person who forever does this.
They don't need to do pottery, but they do need to be interested.
No, but I want them to be the kind of people who are like, oh, I can figure that out, or I want to try that, or I want them to learn that they're capable of more than people think people are capable of early on. Like, I would like that. I'm just like, I want you to, and I also want them to notice all the hard parts, all of these things. The loom, the pottery, all of these things is like 80% the work that's not the fun part, and 20% the part that really thrills you. Sure. Like, it's the work of, it's like just getting used to the fact that you have to do the hard parts too to enjoy these pleasant parts, whatever. Like Lena's knitting herself a sweater, and I make her like now if she's avoiding it for a while, I'll say I don't care if you do something else, but knit on that for 20 minutes first, and then you could do something else. Like I want to see you, because we did go buy all the yarn for that. It's something that is like and part of it is that I want her to not waste the yarn, but most of it is that I want her to know that you can just be diligent on something and make it happen. Like whatever. But the thing I was going to say is, like, if there's a limited amount of oxygen in a space and the mom is a hot burning candle, there's no room for little startup candles in there. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm taking everything before you even get there. But the reality is that I think what the problem is that there's no scope, because the problem is the fact that it was a contained room. It's not that the mom is so good at doing something and that's a problem, but the problem is that there was a limited amount of oxygen. It's like, if you're going to have daughters like you do and like I do, I have 4 daughters coming wanting to be involved in things, and it can't, our home life cannot sustain 4 daughters running at full capable woman speed in the same house in baking and planning meals and sewing and like we have to expand our borders. Like we have to start doing things that will take all of us to do it.
Sure, but I also think, well, back to like what is it that can contribute to this problem? I feel like sometimes it's, let's say you have a mother who insists on handling all the details all the time and making all the decisions and doing all the checklists. So she just creates a daughter who is dependent and is incapable of doing it for herself. That's possible, where you just are the training wheels all the time. There's that. But the other thing is you could be suffocating with it. Like you could be the kind of overbearing with your gifts in a way that the daughter just doesn't want anything to do with it. And sometimes their only defense is passivity.
And it might not be interested.
Like, I'm just going to go limp and I'm just not going to care. And this is my defense mechanism, is I'm just going to
think about other things.
Yeah, I'm just not going to engage. So, like, as a mom who wants to pass things on to her daughters, it does seem like sometimes, like you were saying, there's sort of bigger principles that you want them to get, and then you want to see them run in their own directions and see where they go with it.
Well, right, because I think I learned all kinds of stuff from Mom, but some of the most important things that I learned from other people than Mom, but it was Mom sending us off on that way. Like, it was kind of like Mom being like, oh, check that out. There's a trail that goes that way. Right. Like, can I give you a snack for the road? Have fun. You know what I mean? Like, go do that. And that would be things like, this was kind of that for me at a really important moment was when I had cooking classes with a woman that was like in high school. I remember
Mom bought that for you as a gift.
Mom bought it for me at like the auction or something, and it was just some cooking classes. And Mom knew how to cook, and I knew how to follow a recipe. So it wasn't like there was no it wasn't like it was a huge vacancy in our life. You know, it was like I knew how to cook some things. And still, I took those lessons in high school, and it was like homemade pasta, and we made a souffle, and Caesar salad dressing, and my famous bouche de Noël, which I think I already made fun of on this podcast at some point. But those things that I would not have made by myself at home. I didn't know how to do it. And I was very, I think, taken with how much there was to learn that I didn't know.
And see, okay, so right there, that was an instance of Mom being awesome and being like, hey, this would be fun for Rachel, go. And then you went and learned stuff that you could bring home and explain to us and show us, and it was exciting and interesting.
Or like, I think I remember that was where I learned things that are very common principles, but like where that was when I specifically learned that egg whites will not beat with any fat in them.
Sure.
So it was like, don't try to make a meringue in a plastic bowl because there's probably fat in it.
But you could also be the mother who is doing that. You need to learn how to cook, so I've signed you up for cooking lessons.
Yeah, making
and you're
it
going
totally
to be there
unbearable.
on Thursday. And then the daughter who goes, but she goes with the kind of
fine, Mom, fine.
Yeah, like she actually isn't excited about it. So it's like that difference between or like wanting your daughters to be like, I want my girls to be creative and hardworking and interested, but I don't want to script what their interests have to be. So I have one daughter who's super into photography and making like video stuff. I've got one who's just straight up like actually reminds me of myself at that age, where it's like it's kind of like drawing, painting, sewing is like the interest right there. And then another one who's very in tune with baking, like really in tune with baking. So each of them, they're very different, but it would be really, I think, hideous if I expected each of them to just be interested in the things I remember being interested in. And I really love that they are doing stuff that it hasn't occurred to me to ever try it. And so where you can just be the audience that's cheering rather than the hustler and bustler who is scripting everything.
Well, like for instance, Lena has always been, my oldest daughter has always been really into artistic crafting. I mean, she just is naturally really into it. And she's good. She's a precision kind of a person. She's like, she gets it, makes it happen. But there was like a book that I bought when she was little that I was like, this would be fun. It was like called Felt We Folk. It's these little pipe cleaner floss and felt dolls and stuff that I thought she'd like to do. But that never really, like, I think we maybe like did them one time and then not really after that. And nothing really, Daphne didn't really go for that either. Well, this summer, Chloe is like lit up with snipping out little felt things, and you know, like she sewed. I showed her how to use my really old sewing machine. It's an old Singer, you know, like in the thing, and I showed her how I was like threaded it, and I showed her how to make a basic doll dress out of felt. She just whizzed off with so many of these just hilariously wonky felt. But it was like she's suddenly really into that. Yeah. And none of them had been. And Daphne she's a surprisingly natural embroiderer. Like she just is fun when she freestyles and embroiders, but that's not my gift. It's not like and I don't need them to be any particular thing, but the things that as a mom I keep my eyes on is that I don't want any of them developing an area that they're afraid of, or that they say I'm not good at that, like because she's good at that, so I'm not the one who knits, or I'm not the one who. What about
the opposite problem though, where you have a child who self-identifies
I'm magically gifted at
as good at something, and then somehow the parents just
believe
it.
They're like, you're right. You're incredibly talented.
And then they create a weird monstrosity of a person who...
That is just straight up the scripture about those who compare themselves with themselves are not wise.
Are not wise. No, they are not.
And I was like, let's not do that. Let's just assume that you're not the best in the universe at this.
Right. And so it's like wanting to be the cheering squad and wanting to urge them on without becoming the little...
overly honoring everything you do.
Right, like you don't want to be the parents who are the attendants in the throne room.
Oh my word, yes. But one thing that I do with that is I do make sure that while I'm like, awesome, good job, I don't lie about the production value of things.
Is it time for you to flip your pancakes?
I'm also getting, Too bad I just didn't bring any bread with me tonight.
No, you didn't.
So I don't, like, for instance, my kids, all of them draw things all the time, and I don't save them. Like, sometimes I'm like, that's cool, hanging on the fridge for a minute, and then I will throw it away when I get there.
Yeah,
like, I throw them away all the time.
I've saved a few random things, but...
I have one little file box that I put occasional cute special things in, but what I don't think is of value is everyone thinking that what they made is all that much hotness. I just treat it as that was good practice. Yeah. Now we're throwing it away. And if they mind that, I'm always like, I let them. There's a category of thing that I let them keep in their art drawer. If I'm like, if you still want it, put it in there, and that's fine. It's like, but it's not like everything you made is your masterpiece.
We're going to treasure
I'm like, you're learning. That's
everything that comes from your pen.
Yes, I'm like, just learn.
Treasure it up.
Yeah, I was like, just learn some things, and sometimes we make weird doll dresses out of felt and we throw them away later, because that's what we do.
But it's that balance of like not doing everything for them and being like cheerfully cheering them on in their own interests in a way that is it is teaching them, it is guiding them, but it's not smothering them with your own script that you need them to follow. And it seems like sometimes that might be what's going wrong when some of when you see the product of this kind of mothering sometimes, where it's just this kind of listless, disinterested.
I think because we happen to be in a place where we see a lot of college students coming through. So college girls is like a familiar group to me. And I think people would probably say things like this is millennials or this is whatever, but I think it's not generational so much as it is a failure of parents to do this. But there is nothing as depressing as just the total disinterest. Like no energy to care about anything, no desire to learn anything, no enthusiasm for any of it. No. Like, and that to me is real concern in parenting.
And the best way, I think, to give that to your kids is to have it yourself, because it is infectious. If somebody is interested in something and they're...
let's be frank. That plus confession of sin.
Well, I'm assuming that.
I know, but I'm saying when you say that, when you said the best infectious way to do this is for you to be that way. I was like, yes, so long as you're also in fellowship with them. And the fellowship is sweet enough that they want to be with you. Yeah. Because if you're generally just like, I'm so into my...
But here's the thing. I think when I brought this up, I was not talking about mothers and daughters who are estranged or families that are falling apart.
Right, but I'm thinking that if it's not working for you, if you're like, but I love baking and my daughters will never do it for me, maybe you need to back up and look at the overarching.
Well, that's for sure.
The overarching, how sweet is the fellowship and how much are we keeping in line?
And that would be all like foundational stuff. And I think I was thinking more like families where that's there. I mean, the mothers and daughters, they get along. It's just that there's this there's like proficiency in the mother and the utter lack of it in the daughter, even though there's affection and love and fellowship.
It's hard to know if there's some of that is competition, if it is mothers not liking their daughters passing them up and things.
Right.
Because I feel like, I don't feel competitive with my girls, but I feel stunned that like what Lena's doing at her age is so far beyond what I was doing when I was that age. That
isn't it Augustine who said that was it Augustine who said his son is the only man that he would be able to see him pass him up and have no temptation to resent it. You know, like that's the one man in the world that I would be thrilled to watch him pass me.
See, I think it's funny because Mom always talks like that, and I always think it's funny when she says that because I'm always like, good heavens, Mom, like, you've still got a long lead on us because you're still way out there, Mom. She's like, oh, Rachel, you're so far ahead of me on that. I'm like, no. I'm just going to go ahead and say, Mom, I'm still eating the dust.
No, but it is true that moms can get competitive with their girls.
Yes.
Or
just not want, like, they want to be the star of the show in their house. They want to be in charge of everything.
Seeing things not done up to their standards.
Yeah, and I'll be real that I have struggled this summer with the reality that my spaces are not my spaces. Like, the kitchen is not my area where I'm working. Someone is in there wanting to make banana bread, and I'm like, oh.
Well, it's like, if you picture, for instance, a mom who couldn't bear, like, let's say you have a little kid who tries to make his bed and it's a little bit wonky and it's not quite parallel on the side, and a mom who can't let that go, who can't let it happen, and always comes in and always goes over the top and always fixes it. Well, of course you're never going to have the kid learn to do it because, up to the standard. And so they don't bother because why would they need to? Like, sometimes that happens. Other times I think the kids resent it, and so they go passive. They just go completely limp, and their only defense against their mother is
indifference.
Indifference. And I think that can happen. I feel like that happens in boys. Like, I've seen that in sons with mothers who are trying to make them do stuff. It's sort of like, I may not be able to outright rebel, but I will do the passive resistance thing by just being
I will just go limp, and since I'm 6'2", you won't be able to move me.
Yeah, or younger, like the upper elementary years where they just have the dead eyes and the like, I won't engage with this. Yeah. Anyway, well, we just covered many of those things. We need to have a tip of some sort. We were gonna have tips of things to not do.
Oh, right.
Auntie tips.
And I was...
Oh, I have one from today.
Yep.
The internet lied.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, I think
I couldn't find my toilet brush. Given the situation in my house right now, I don't know where it is.
I like to bring up that wherever it is, it shouldn't be there.
I think it's in the basement. All my cleaning...
That is not as bad as it could be.
No. And plus...
I'm like, because if you find that in the laundry, it's
but
like...
I don't use a toilet brush anyway. It's a wand with those disposable pads on top. Yeah. But I can't find the pads, and I can't find the wand, and I think it's in the basement because everything's a mess. Anyhow, the toilet is in desperate need of a scrub out. And, of course, I know that I could drive to the store, but I just... haven't gotten to that.
Who does that?
And so it's really bad. And
I mean, if it was at the Palouse Empire Mall, you would get it problem.
I know. But I was lamenting
look at that. It's an owl.
What?
There's an owl right on. Yes.
Where?
It just coasted in on top of that, right on top of the streetlight.
Okay, that's funny.
All right. Sorry.
Wildlife sighting.
Wildlife.
No, last night at the 4th of July picnic, I was, for whatever reason, I was saying, I can't find my toilet brush, and it was bad. And Mom says, oh, there it is.
It's another one. It's 2 of them.
Oh, my word, guys. We're in the Parliament of Owls.
Hoo-hoo.
Oh, man. But anyway,
so
gosh,
fun.
I'm in the middle of such a gripping tale.
I'm sorry. Tell me more.
A gripping tale about my
more.
toilet brush, and then here we are
And
distracted
we're like
by
having
owls.
a gripping tale of toilet brushes combined with the ornithologist's dream.
Oh, man. Anyway, Mom says, oh, hey, I saw somebody said you can pour a bottle of Coke in your toilet and it will clean it. And so I look it up. Sure enough, they say pour a bottle of Coke in there and it will clean it right up. And guess what? It doesn't.
Hot tips.
I can't imagine.
Hot tips not to try.
I can't imagine what they think would have happened. But, you know, there's videos, there's people saying this is going to work.
You know
like
what my
a charm.
guess is? I'll just say it's probably a regional kind of water deposit that it would take off. Like there might be
Who
something.
knows? Maybe this is just iron. It's
I like
it's
to
the iron
believe
state.
that somewhere, somehow, that maybe that worked for
Maybe
someone.
it works, but it didn't work for
Sure,
me.
because surely they're not videoing themselves putting Coke in the toilet as a hoax. Which makes me think we should do that. We should do a hoax like this and see how
like,
many people could try.
If you put cinnamon in between your toes before bed.
What about if you did something like to spot clean your fridge, just smear mayonnaise.
Oh my gosh.
Mayonnaise rub.
Do you know what? Knox the other day, I had like just deli meat and stuff and was like, make your own sandwiches for lunch. And he's like, what's wrong with this cream cheese? And I said, oh, I bought like some kind of Greek cream cheese this time. I'd never tried it before, but it was like
Greek
lower
yogurt,
calorie
yeah.
or something. And I tried that and I was like, oh, it's Greek cream cheese. And he's like, it's weird. And one
Was
of the
it
girls,
Old Mayo?
he'd gotten out the shortening that was in it was in one of those cubes, you know, with the silver wrapper.
So
And it was like only part of it. And it was a thick squash of shortening.
Did he put it on his
And
sandwich?
guess what? He just kept eating it, going like, yeah, that's not good. And he polished it off, and I was like,
man, microwave that for a second, see what happens.
it's like, why didn't you just open your sandwich and scrape it back out? And he was like, oh yeah, I guess I could have done that. Anyway,
That is so gross.
he powered through a deli sandwich with shortening.
So that's Knox's don't try tips. Don't try a sandwich with shortening on it.
Yeah, don't do it.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, and you have...
So back in our youth and our childhood, somebody gave Mom a book that was called The Frugal Mind.
Yeah, the frugal
And
mind.
we got a lot
Mileage.
of hours of entertainment out of that. But the tips were just some of them.
Amazing.
They ranged from really bad to like breathtakingly impossibly bad. And then we quit reading it when it got really unfunny about how to save money at a family funeral. And then I feel like it lost its edge of hilarity at that point. We were like, oh no. But most of the tips had pretty heavy downsides. Like, do you remember the one that it was like water down your mascara all the time to make it last longer? But you think, to make it last longer and whip yourself up with an eye infection. Like, they're always telling you to not do that.
But she calculated how much money you would save.
So she'd be like, by simply following this rule, you could save $12 this year. $12 in the year. And then one of them, so I would say the worst tips that I can remember from that. Some of them were just comic. It's not so much that they're that bad of a tip. They're just outrageous. Like she was like, if you get a run in your nylons, just cut that leg off and save the good leg until you have a pair with a run in the other leg. So then you just wear the good legs one at a time. 2 pairs. You save yourself $8 this year if you would only save all your...
I feel like it was over a longer course. It was like over the course of your life.
It might have been in your lifetime. It could be up to $35.
Save up to $42.
Oh, my word. And then, but the section on decor, I love. Do you remember how it said to save money in your house decor? Because the one tip stood with me all these years.
Spray paint beans?
Macaroni noodles. It was various noodles. Spray paint noodles.
Yeah.
And put them in jars. Period. That was all we heard about how to decorate your house on a dime.
You're like, I did that in Sunday school.
Wait a minute. What effect am I gonna achieve with a jar full of spray painted noodles?
Well, I remember she said to not turn your heat on in your house,
but instead
knit your family fingerless gloves
just to get you right through the winter without noticing.
So that they can still use their fingers, but you don't have to have the heat on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Think on that. This was in the technological era where it said coupons are the same thing as money. Coupons are. So invest in a file cabinet to put in your trunk and file them all up. And then the other major investment was in a set of walkie-talkies.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Oh, no!
It was like walkie-talkies. I feel like it may have even been long-distance walkie-talkies so that you will be able, because this would have been pre-cell phone.
Oh, yeah, way pre-cell phone.
So that you can communicate with your spouse about the best prices at different grocery stores.
Oh.
And we were laughing so hard just thinking about, like...
Do you read me, Lima Charlie?
Do you read me? Over
and out.
Tell me about the canned peas. But how many ounces is that can? And at the end of this operation, you may have saved yourself $7 in your lifetime.
Oh, but at what cost?
But at the cost of walkie-talkies and the file cabinet in your trunk.
Not to mention a lot of renegade one-legged nylons in your life.
Right, I get some of our listeners, no doubt, are avid couponers, and good on you if you're avid couponers, but someone once told me all of the ways that if I went through this elaborate sequence of events, printing and picking up coupons and all these things, that at the end of that time I could get a free tube of toothpaste from Walgreens or like it would end up being like free toothpaste at Walgreens. And I said, the bad thing is that they could have just set up a tent in the parking lot handing out toothpaste and I wouldn't get there. like me being driven to get free toothpaste is not happening. Like, it's just not coming your way anytime.
It's not my spiritual gift.
No, and then one time I was checking out at Winco and the woman ahead of me had all of her big album of coupons. Like, she got it out, she whipped it off, and then the cashier was like, the cashier was really pleased with her, which was funny. It was just like not normal way that pans out.
Right.
The cashier was like, I'm so excited for you saving all this money. And then she turned to me and she was like, you should be doing this about my groceries. I'm like, nothing like shaming the lady who's already shopping at the pack your own groceries in a bag store. And I was like, I'm just really proud of myself if I get to the store in a timely manner, and not adding coupon loopholes to my routine would not get me there faster.
No.
All right, on that Debbie Downer of a note,
we've straggled on.
Well, if you're worried that we're too down, just go back to thinking about the hurricane booth at the mall.
Why does this crack us up so much?
I don't know. It's completely unacceptable.
Oh, my word. Wow. Okay, well, we should go.
Doggy. I'm going to get out of this car and see these owls.
All right,
okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.